And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. Hello and welcome. I'm Warren, and we are going to be reviewing the AEW Dynamite that happened on April 16, 2025, over in Boston, Massachusetts at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway. A Dynamite that, look, you already know what how I'm going to be approaching this review. You're already fully aware. I don't know what the title exactly is going to be, but it's going to be exactly representative of what everyone is thinking. An all-timer great Dynamite. If not the greatest, I mean, if you want to just like slap that title on it, you know, we could have some fun little talks about it, but I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to try and break you down and say that you're wrong. It is 100% absolutely a valid point of view. If you wanted to call this the greatest Dynamite of all time, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think it's right up there. It's right up there with some of the greatest episodes of Dynamite that at least I can remember, right? That belongs in that pantheon of really excellent episodes of AEW television, AEW weekly television, like the Brody Lee show, the Brody Lee tribute show. Of course, that one was special for multiple reasons, but that one was really good. The 2020, I can't remember exactly the date, but it was in 2020. You know, the Dynamite from Atlanta where Cody fought Wardlow in the cage, right? And Cody did the moonsault off the top, right? January 2024. No, not January 2024. January 20. Yeah, it was 2024, right? So I'm coming up with this as we go along here. The game 7 of the Elite Death Triangle series, the Escalera de la Muerte match, that was absolutely phenomenal. And also, because the thing is that was the main event, but also on that card, we had Danielson versus Takeshita. Takeshita, if I remember correctly, was still very fresh in the company. Was it 20? I think it was 2023. It had to be 2020. No, 2023 makes more sense. It wasn't 2020. It wasn't last year. It was 2023. It wasn't 2024, Warren. But nonetheless, Danielson, they had that, and Takeshita was still really fresh in the company. And then we had, there was also that show opened up with Moxley versus Hangman. Just an absolute bonkers show of just like great fucking pro wrestling. And we kind of had that template here for this Dynamite here. A Dynamite where just like everything worked. Everything worked. You might, and it worked to different degrees. Your mileage may vary depending on how you feel about certain things, and my mileage does vary. We'll get into the specifics in a little bit, but it was like everything that was put on the show last night and set out to do what it needed to accomplished it. Like everything on this show functioned, worked, got you feeling, right? And it started with the crowd, a super hot crowd that was just like the expression goes, right? They were hanging from the rafters. They were excited. They were into it. Those balconies looked tremendous. When sometimes they'd cut to the audience, or not necessarily cut to the audience, but you'd see the audience in the background of moves and stuff happening. When they do the shots from ringside looking into the ring, and then you'd see like people in the back, and you'd have people up on their feet and pointing and cheering, and you're like, man, that felt special. Is it like, would it be fair to raise comparisons to like ECW Arena back in the day? Or am I catching myself in some hyperbolic statements right now? Am I just letting myself get carried away? But look, the feeling there was undeniable. What a tremendous crowd. And this venue was packed, right? WrestleTix, according to their last update from yesterday before the show, 3,181 tickets were distributing. The capacity of the venue was 3,200. This was essentially a sellout for them. And it was such a good looking venue on top of that for television. Everything was packed. There wasn't an empty seat in sight, and in every seat was a fan who was excited and wanted to be there and was into everything that this company was putting out there. And not only were they into what the company was putting out there, but the company gave them reason to be into it on top of that. Like, they gave matches, one in particular, that, like, even if you were a little down, a little sour on AEW, a little grumpy, they absolutely succeeded in winning you over. I don't believe you could have watched, let's just say it, Ospreay and Takeshita last night and still be like, AEW, look at these fans cheering for nothing. No, that was a fucking great match that we got on free TV, but I'm catching myself because I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm enthusiastic about this show. I'm enthusiastic about last night's Dynamite, and my enthusiasm overall for AEW, which seems to be growing, which seems to be improving week after week, feels justified when we get shows like last night. No bullshit, no filler, all killer, right? That's exactly what the show was. I can't wait. Look, I think the best way to go about it at this point is to start breaking down the show. In this venue debut here that they had at the MGM Music Hall, they should come back here. They really should come back here. I know, like I know the play ultimately is for them, of course, to start running big venues again, arenas and whatnot, and they'll probably want to go back to the TD Arena. I can't remember. I think it's the TD Arena, right? And that's probably the play where they want to go back there. But Jesus Christ, like, if I want to say too many things at once here. If I'm Tony Khan and I'm looking at this show and I'm looking at this audience and how great they were the entire way and how into it they were and how they just, you had true to form AEW fans in here. I'm like, this is our Boston home. This is our New England home. This is where we come when we come to visit Boston. And turn people away at the door if you want. Turn people away. Look, in another lifetime, I'd worked in the entertainment industry, let's put it that way. Working on shows, local shows for bands and whatnot. And the strategy we would employ, and we would tell every band that we worked with, because they all wanted to work one of the bigger small venues in town, which, I don't want to dox myself, but, every band wanted to work there because it's a gorgeous venue, great acoustics, whatnot, but a little on the big side, right? A little, especially for small local bands. So we tell them the best thing you can do is to start by playing the smaller venues, the smaller bars, and there's some great music, some great live performance bars in the city. We start by playing those, and even if we only pack, I don't know, like 75 people in the building, in the venue, I mean, your places, the idea is that it's going to look packed. So people are going to come out of there and they're going to hit their Facebook pages and they're going to be, wow, it was so much fun, standing room only, blah, blah, blah. But there was only 75 people. You don't have to, and no one's going to talk about that on their Facebook page. They're just going to talk about how great of a show it was, how great the atmosphere was. Hell, if we were able to get some press there, they're going to take some pictures. Place is going to look jam-packed, so that's good for your vibe. And then you do your next show, and then you upgrade until the buzz carries you into the bigger venues. And we would hope that we'd start turning people at the door. You're like, Warren, this is dumb. You were turning money away. To a degree, yes, but also no. Or at least it's an investment. If your band is worth it, if the act you're working with is worth it, it's going to pay off in the end. But the idea is that here's what happens. And this happened once where with this one band, it's exactly the situation that happened. We would fill up there would be standing room only. We'd be turning people away at the door. So then people would get upset. So what would happen is that the next show they'd run, people would jump at the tickets earlier. So the show would get sold out earlier. And then the next show after that, the same pattern would happen, but then we're like, well, we're going to move venues because we sold out the last one. We're on the road to sell out this one. We're bumping up to one of the larger venues in town. That's all there is to it. That's the kind of buzz that AEW needs. That's the kind of buzz that AEW has to get. It has to create, once again, consumer confidence amongst live event ticket buyers. And if you put on shows like this where it's like whatever these people pay, and they didn't pay WWE prices for these tickets on top of that, and they got a hell of a show. So what's going to happen next time they come around here? Well, people are going to secure their tickets a lot faster because they were like, fuck, last time this show ruled. So I'm going to get my tickets sooner. And if you're turning people away, then it just creates more demand. And eventually what? You graduate, I guess. You move to bigger venues. But this is the kind of stuff that AEW needs. This is a first step. And I'm not saying suddenly this is a complete victory. The show last night was a success top to bottom. Like everything. Production, business, creative. Everything worked. And of course, the wrestling, right? Everything connected last night. Now, I'm not saying that this is suddenly that this is a first step. Can they sustain this every week? Unlikely. If they do, if we start getting, if this becomes the baseline Dynamite moving forward, we're all going to be winners, but I doubt it. Fans, watchers, wrestling fans. But I don't think this is sustainable. I don't think this is the plan. But the idea, nonetheless, is if you are able to create, buzz, hype, scarcity, get the tickets moving. Look, you can see the difference between Dynamite and Collision and what these two names mean. Because we're running back-to-back nights, right? When I say we, I mean AEW, at the MGM Music Hall. Back-to-back nights. Tonight, Thursday, they're running Collision. Well, Collision has half the tickets sold or distributed, I should say, according to WrestleTix, in regards to the capacity. Dynamite last night was essentially a sellout. So Dynamite, the name Dynamite, is still much more synonymous with AEW and the potential for a great show than Collision is, which is still halfway there. Now, listen, if I was at that Dynamite last night and I didn't have my ticket for Collision tonight, I'm absolutely going, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to see this AEW show tomorrow as well, right? And maybe they'll do some really great walk-up business and they'll be able to get over the 2,000 tickets distributed hump. I think I think it makes sense that they might do better walk-up business off how good last night's show was. And, it's a Thursday. You're closer to the weekend. You go out, you do a happy hour with your pals, and you're like, hey, well, you want to go watch some wrestling? This AEW show last night was really cool. All right, let's go. Thursdays are a lot more conducive to this kind of stuff. So, I think they'll do a good number overall. But you see, like, the difference even right now in the perception-wise, Dynamite is absolutely perceived as the A show, and Collision is still struggling to raise itself to that level. I think it's fairly clear, right? Despite the fact that Collision, again this weekend, another great Collision, more great Collisions, good ratings. It's been doing well in the ratings. I mean, it's good. Like, Collision is good. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm saying that perception-wise, it's still struggling. We might be getting a little off topic. Shouldn't we be talking about how great this Dynamite was? I think that's what we should be doing. Yeah, let's not waste any more time. Mercedes Mone defeated Athena to advance in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. This was the semifinals, and Mercedes Mone punched her card. Is that it? No, do you punch the clock? You don't punch the clock. You punch your card, right? What's the idiom? Doesn't matter. She's going to Double or Nothing, essentially, for the finals of the women's Owen Hart tournament, Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Listen, let's just get this out of the way right now, okay? Both on the men and women's side, this has been the best Owen Hart tournament since its inception. Like, I don't even think there's room to argue. The quality of the matches on both the ladies and the men's side has been very good to excellent, and I think the stakes, adding the stakes of the World Championship title shot and all that helps out, but everyone, I feel, is just bringing their A game here. Not every match has been great, but I'm saying overall, it's a much better tournament than the past, than we got in the, like, this is, without a doubt, this is the best edition of the Owen. And the Owen feels special. It feels good, and AEW fans now, they're in the routine of the Owen, and we understand, the celebration of Owen Hart's life and legacy, and the foundation, and all endorsed by Martha. Like, we all accept that, and it's tremendous. Now it really feels part of the fabric of AEW, if that makes sense. And now it really feels like this year felt like a top tier tournament. But maybe I'm getting a little hasty on my post-mortem here when we're still in the midst of the tournament. That's probably not a sage idea to do. Okay, so the match starts and we get a bell pop. People were into this. People were, the crowd, of course, Mercedes Mone gets a big reaction. It is her hometown. Athena gets a pretty good reaction too, but we get the bell pop for this one. They didn't need to work for it, they being the women. The crowd just naturally got excited. We're like, oh shit, this is a match that we've been wanting to see, and we're getting it. And I'm not going to break this match down necessarily move per move here, because here's the thing. I liked this match a lot, and I thought it was really good, but also really awkward. Do you know what I mean? I've reviewed multiple Sasha Banks, Mercedes Mone matches over my time. And, one of the things that we say, not just me, I think it's pretty much an accepted commodity, is one of the things that you just have to accept about Mercedes is that, she has a sloppiness to her. Like, that's just been always present in all of her matches, but not to her detriment, which is weird, right? It's a sloppiness that works for her. It's a sloppiness that always, like, keeps you on the edge where you're like, oh my God, if she tries this, she might actually kill this human being she's wrestling with. It never goes too far. Like, it doesn't happen very often that she's a detriment to her own matches. Like, somehow it's her style, if that makes sense. And we got that in this match because like I said, it's a Mercedes match. But there were also things in this match that she and Athena were trying to do that were a little too cutesy, you know, trying to do these setups for these exchanges, these back and forths. And you can tell that, oh, this is the spot they planned. You know what I mean? And there was just there was just a little too much. I was trying to be clever with some weird sentence structure, but there was a little too much of these cutesy spots to keep me from really going, yes, this was absolutely a great match. I thought this was a really good match. Don't get me wrong, but you know, the stuff when they're doing when they're trying to get, they're bending over out of trying to and getting the other girl into a tombstone position or whatever the fuck, and they're doing this back and forth, and and they're struggling a little bit, doesn't look great, and you're like, okay, and then there's this spot on the floor where they're doing where they're trying to German each other off the apron, and you're like, and the start too, they're doing spots and they're rolling out, with submissions and they're trying to flow through, but it's not really natural. And I don't hate it. Like, I'm not saying this stunk, because it didn't, because it kind of worked, but also it kind of kept me from going higher, like getting really excited about it. And it's weird because, like, this is a match that I ended up rating 3 3/4 stars, which is a terrific match, right? Like that, it's a match I really, really, really liked. Above average, close to great, and it's like but I know a lot of people are really high on it. I can't bring myself to get over that hump because there was just a little too much cutesy stuff that ended up not working out and really didn't add to the match. Because when these two decided to just like stick to the basics and strike and drop each other on their heads and whatnot, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. This is great. Like, this is tremendous. And then they, the German suplex spots or the teases off the apron, and I'm like, we didn't need this. Like, this is not, like, it's not bringing anything that you couldn't be successful in doing by just having more of a straight up wrestling match. That's my main criticism. I think they tried a little too hard to do some cool things. Like Mercedes doing the, getting Athena into the bank statement, whatever the fuck she called, the statement maker. And she, she locks it in and she rolls to the floor like that. Zack Sabre Jr. did that this past weekend at Windy City, right? I'm like, oh, was she watching Zack? Anyway, but Zack Sabre Jr. did it this weekend, not exactly in a bank statement or a statement maker. Oh, Jesus Christ. But, I think he had an armbar on David Finlay and they rolled to the floor, and it was really excited and well done, And this one just felt a little off. It just, I don't know. It sounds like I'm bitching about a really good match. I kind of am, to be honest. But I want to be clear. I thought this match was really fantastic. I thought it was a terrific match and a great performance by both women. I think this, from what I've seen, because I don't watch the Ring of Honor week to week, but I do watch the pay-per-views. And I think I haven't really, really enjoyed an Athena match this much since the Willow match, which I can't remember on which pay-per-view, but that was like last year. Was it last year or the year before? I was very excited about that. Mercedes gets the win with a flash pin, holding the tights pretty clearly too. On top of that, That's how she gets the win. And I would say, if you ask me, keep that close in your head, because that to me is a symbol that this feud must go on. This is still a signal to me that we are not done with this feud. I think that Toni Storm coming out after the match to, just to stand there at Mercedes from the balcony, I think maybe that's a sign that we're setting up a champ versus champ match at All In, which quite frankly I think would be a big money match and has a lot of interesting stakes. I was an advocate for Mercedes versus Athena at All In, but apparently that's not going to be the way we're going to go. So I think it's looking more and more like Mercedes versus Toni, and it makes sense. Look, if All In is supposed to be AEW's WrestleMania, well, you get your biggest matches out there. And on the women's side, sorry to say, like, that's the biggest match you got. And then you start throwing in singles titles in here. It's going to be really interesting. The more I think about it, the more I think it's going to be a really, really interesting build and a really interesting match. So, we still have to go through Double or Nothing, but anyway, Mercedes won. Did I make that clear? Did I make it clear enough that Mercedes won? Yeah. So good match, but like the big double handful of tights to me means we're not done with this story yet. Renee Paquette is backstage with one of the two, I believe, only two backstage segments on this show, where we had she was interviewing the Hangman Adam Page once again, talking about you're facing the wild card, and Adam Page, just like last week when she tried to talk about him about the wild card. Last week he was like, "What do you want me to say, Renee? I don't know who I'm fighting." And tonight he's like, "What do you want me to say? I don't know how to prepare if I'm fighting someone and I don't know who they are." And then the Young Bucks and Okada arrive, and they basically they reference assisting Adam Page at Dynasty, and offered their support for the Owen as well, saying, we're friends again, right? We're friends now, right? And yeah, of course, Hangman's not quite into it. And Okada sort of told him, "Hey, why are you always mad? Smile a little." So, we're still not done with Kazuchika Okada being a goofball. That's still not it. Called him bitch, and Page, who was walking away, came back and said, "What did you say?" He said, "No, I just smile. So there was a little confrontation there. We'll see how that goes down, but still dropping a little bit of a little more lore here for this for the advancement of this feud. Then we had two, I believe, I'm not even going to say I believe. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. I believe it's Tuukka, right? Rask. I think that's just as simple as that. Tuukka Rask, former goaltender for the Boston Bruins, up there on the Dynamite stage with the Stanley Cup. Little corporate synergy there with Warner Bros. Discovery, with the NHL playoffs this weekend, which is why the Collision is being bumped to Thursday. Yeah, I thought that was interesting, and that wouldn't be the only local sports hero appearance, right? Kristaps Porzingis was there as well. I love Kristaps as a name. I think it's tremendous. If I had to go back and rename my kids, if I had that possibility, I'd call one of them Kristaps. It's so cool. I think it's such a cool name. But Boston Celtics guy, he was also acknowledged, but that was later on in the evening. So all the tie-ins there, the synergies were still very present there for the presentation for the Dynamite, having some sports figures there. Then we got Hangman Adam Page defeating the wild card the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. The wild card ended up being the walking weapon, Jason Alexander. Jesus Christ. And I mean, I had speculated on it, and I said I wouldn't debut him here, but they wouldn't debut him anyway. So, you know, what do I know? Anyway, Hangman came out to a great reaction and a good reaction for Josh Alexander. You know, people were like, oh, he didn't get that big a pop. Well, quite frankly, I don't think Josh Alexander, as much as I like him, you know, he's not a guy that you're gonna blow the roof off of if he shows up somewhere. I think overall, especially during the course of this match, you could see that the audience knew who he was. They were into it, but they were like, oh, okay, you know, it's that guy and we like this guy, but we're not gonna start losing our mind over it. And I think that's fine. You know, it's people. I don't know what kind of pop they were expecting for Alexander. Like, it wasn't Roman Reigns showing up on Dynamite. Like, you know, let's be real here. This was a really good, hard hitting, strong match, just like I like them. Trading their signature moves. You know, Paige does Adam Page in this match does a visually tremendous move where he straddles Alexander, you know, on the barricade on the floor, right on next to a pool of people sitting in the crowd, right next to the ramp, and Page climbs all the way to the top of the ramp onto the stage, runs off the stage to lariat. With a flying lariat, sending Alexander off the rail, right? But Page is like flying over the crowd, which I thought was fabulous. It was such a cool spot. Alexander does the flapjack and does his and does his diving crossbody through the ropes. Adam Page does a Norihara moonsault. Alexander then tries to lock in the ankle lock, can't quite get it in, and Page rolls him up for a bit of a flash win here. It was good. It was a really good. This was a really, really solid, well wrestled, energetic. Crowd was into it. This was a 4-star match for me. I thought ultimately ended up doing. Having a really good debut for Josh Alexander, and I was like, it's just really, and then I was like, it's really weird. It's really, really weird that they're debuting him with a loss, right? Then, of course, it all made sense because Kyle Fletcher came out. He's going to be Hangman Page's next opponent in the tournament. So Fletcher comes out. Don Callis is with him. Fletcher hits the ring to sort of confront, to confront Page. Meanwhile, and they show this on camera, Don Callis is whispering into Josh Alexander's ear, and while Page is distracted with Fletcher, Alexander hits the ring and attacks Hangman Adam Page. He didn't look very enchanted on doing it. You know, I don't know if he, you know, did Don Callis pressure him into doing whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that Alexander got his heat back on that, which I think was a good thing to do. Man, Adam Page right now has more enemies than friends. Like, he's got no friends. Like, feuding with the Death Riders, feuding with Swerve. Now he's got the Don Callis family breathing down his neck. Like, the guy's a marked man. He's going to need some pals at some point. So yeah, like I said, Alexander gets his heat back. I'm like, okay, all this works. I see the vision now. And you know, not that long ago, Don Callis was saying, oh, you know, the Don Callis family is always recruiting or something to that effect. He says, we're recruiting right now. So there you go. I mean, all these little things tie in, and that was very cool. 4-star match. What do you want from me? Patriarchy are backstage. We're talking about Christian Cage. We're talking about Nick Wayne, Kip Sabian, and Mama Wayne. And basically, you know, they're addressing the tension. Christian Cage addresses the fact that Wayne was going to compete in the Best of Super Juniors over in New Japan. And he said, I'm creating all these opportunities for you, blah, 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 blah. But it all ends with Christian Cage, showing, basically saying, you stood up to me, kid, but I'm not sure I'm into it. It's good that you have fire, but don't forget who the boss is, essentially is what he's saying. And he slaps Nick Wayne across the face. And this rivalry continues on. Well, it's not a rivalry yet, but you all realize that this is going to happen with Nick Wayne, right? Like this is coming in regards to Nick Wayne. Then the Hurt Syndicate defeated the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan and Toa Liana, of course. And I was actually really excited to see this match because I'm like, okay, these are bruisers, big, hard-hitting teams. And I really like this match because the Gates of Agony decided to work the strategy where we're going to focus on Shelton, who, even though he's he's a big guy and a tough son of a bitch in and by himself, he's not as overwhelming as Bobby Lashley. So you undercut Lashley. They try to throw, keep him off the apron, fuck with him on the floor so that he's, he can't get involved in the match. So all they do is focus on Shelton. And that was a sound game plan that they had. And I like the story they were telling there. But the story here also is that the Hurt Business are just way too strong. and this was it was a struggle for them to overcome the Gates, which was cool. But they did overcome the Gates and win. I gave this 3.25 stars. And the question I had is, why aren't the Hurt Syndicate having, better matches like this, good matches like this on pay-per-view? I don't understand. Then this, of course, leads to the MJF segment that immediately followed. MJF comes out and, basically, says that he brings a lot to the table, based off of the advice from, based off the advice that MVP gave him last week, where he said essentially, this is business, and in business, find what your customer wants and give it to them. Well, MJF figured, I guess they want the hose. I don't know what, I guess they want ladies. We'll just, and he brings in like a dozen, ladies that MJF later outright referred to them on Twitter as sex workers. So, look, and basically offered them up for an exchange as a bargaining chip into the Hurt Syndicate. And he was on the verge of convincing Shelton Benjamin, who even asked for his watch, said, can you give me, I'll even take your watch. And I might, I'll consider it, but no, he was still rejected. It's still not what the Hurt Syndicate wants. So, but nonetheless, MJF was very gracious and gave Shelton his watch anyway, and told them to have fun with the ladies. I mean, okay, so there's all sorts of optics problems here, of course. You can't escape it. There's going to be people who are going to be very, very upset about it. I thought it was really well executed in the sense that, okay, first and foremost, MJF is a heel and he's a scumbag. And I don't know who needs to hear this. He is a scumbag. That's the essence of his whole character. So for him to do that is completely logical. He thinks he's got it figured out, but he hasn't. And it's a scummy thing to do. And and so it makes sense for MJF to do it. But on top of that, it didn't even work for him. It failed. Like, he thought he had it figured out, but it didn't. It blew up in his face. Like Bobby Lashley, look, one of the most, I have to absolutely admit that it was funny seeing Shelton Benjamin, surrounded by the girls and, just going, oh shit, he's like, he's like at the buffet, he doesn't know what to start with. He doesn't know what to look at. He's got so many choices. He's like, okay, and he's distracted and whatnot. Whereas Lashley completely no-selling the girls. Completely no-selling that one girl who goes right for Lashley's tit, right? She just like, bop, goes right for it, completely no-sells it. I mean, that's some focus, brother. I respect. I don't know if I could, I would have flinched. At the very least, anyway. So Lashley's completely no-selling the thing while this is going on. So that I thought was kind of funny, but ultimately the plan backfired where they're like, they see through it. They're not as dumb as MJF seems to think they are, because that's the whole situation, is that MJF is dumb enough to think that these guys are going to fall for this cheap trick, right? And they're like, no, man, this is, it's not going to work. Thumbs down. You're not in the group yet. You still, I should say. So it's okay, fine, fuck off. And he fucks off. And sure, later on in the evening, we get the backstage segment where MVP is sort of like telling Bobby Lashley, like, man, you got to lighten up, but Bob is still like, I don't trust him. I don't like him. I don't know what he wants. But MVP is sort of trying to tell him now, hey, we can use him to achieve our goals, right? Now, I don't know why you'd be saying this on camera, because MJF can watch the tape later and see like, oh, they want to play me, I'm going to play them. You know how it goes. It's kind of weird. That was a little disconnect where I'm like, this was going so well. And I know the guys ultimately left with the ladies, but, ultimately the plan didn't work. I think that's, they're like, oh, well, we might as well since they're there. But the idea is that MJF still, he thinks he's got it figured out, but he hasn't. Now, of course, in the context of professional wrestling right now and professional wrestling lawsuits that are happening in the business right now, it's a little strange to have an angle where you are exchanging women for sexual favors to in a negotiation tactic to get what you want. That's flying a little close to the sun, and I will acquiesce that. Might not be the best look, and I know some people are upset about it, and I can't. I can't blame anyone who is. I think it does fly a little close to the sun. I think the fact that in a fictional environment that we are in right now, with the story that was told last night, MJF ended up looking like a buffoon because of it. His plan didn't work out. So if he had been successful, then maybe we would have had a conversation about that, but maybe a couple of other conversations as well that, I'm not necessarily the man to have. But there you go. Look, I thought overall it was a successful angle. I think it did what it had to do. And then we got Will Ospreay defeating Konosuke Takeshita in the Owen Hart Foundation semifinals of the men's tournament. Look, you know exactly what I'm going to say here. This is one of the greatest TV wrestling matches of all time. This was a pay-per-view quality match, and I knew that's what we were getting when they're starting off and they're doing the grappling and they're taking their time, they're teasing stuff. They're not out the gate dropping each other on their heads and like, Jesus Christ, they're giving them time. They're giving them time. Are we going to get like a big time classic? And oh my God, you wanted a big time classic? We got ourselves a big time classic here. Starts off with the mat wrestling and moves on to the strikes. And then you get the high flying maneuvers, and it all culminates in them, dropping each other with big moves and knocking each other down and, getting back up to their feet and trying to drop each other with some great stuff. There's a super fast exchange of lariats and slugs and kickouts at one in the middle of the match, and Will Ospreay starts pulling out later in the match. Takeshita's moves, right? He does a bastard driver. He does the wheelbarrow German. And then Takeshita, he fights back with a hidden blade himself. Then they're fighting in the corner on the turnbuckles. And Takeshita hits a top rope lariat that sends Will flying off the top. But he lands on his feet, lands a hidden blade. Takeshita kicks out, lands the Styles Clash. Takeshita kicks out, knee strike by Takeshita, but it all culminates with a Stonebreaker for the win. Stormbreaker. Not a Stonebreaker, Stormbreaker. I mean, look, this match over-delivered in any expectations that we had for a fucking Wednesday night Dynamite. You know, like, if you had put this on any pay-per-view, I'd be, I was like, well, the floor is match of the night. Like that, unquestionably. That's the floor. On putting this in on Wednesday night, I was like, well, you know what? This is going to be really good. But, how far are they going to go? Like, this is just a Wednesday night. It's just it's just another Wednesday night. How far are they going to go? I had no idea that they were going to go full on, professional wrestling. I had no idea they were going to go full on pay-per-view, knock your socks off match. I was stunned. I was hooting and hollering, walking and pacing. I was slapping my knees, pumping my fists on a Wednesday night. I didn't really talk about it, but because there's so much, there's so much to talk about this show. Spring Breakthrough, episode 289 of Dynamite. This show was celebrating, lasting longer than WCW Nitro back in the day. Dynamite has been on TV longer than Nitro has. And they decided to celebrate by just giving us a no-nonsense, fantastic edition of Dynamite, but one which also included one of the best goddamn televised wrestling matches you will ever see. Outside of pay-per-view, closed circuit TV, streaming on Peacock, on a PLE or whatever the fuck. Outside of all of that, on the flagship weekly TV show, you got one of the greatest matches you'll ever see in the history of TV wrestling. A match that I'm convinced people will be putting on their ballots for match of the year at 100%. And I don't know if this was just to continue to punctuate the idea that Dynamite has outlasted Nitro. The whole Eric Bischoff thing, and how satisfying it must be for Tony Khan and the team to be in this position. And I don't know if they wanted to solidify it by doing, look, we're even doing things. We're even doing things that Nitro couldn't do or didn't choose to do, despite them having the talent to do it nonetheless. Coming out with these great fucking matches. And this one, just punctuating how terrific it was and adding to the vibe that AEW has this week with all the news. Forbidden Door date established at the O2 in London. The Dynamite that's going to be in Arena Mexico on June 18, I believe, right? A Dynamite in Arena Mexico. The first foreign promoter to ever record, to put to tape a show in Arena Mexico. All sorts of great news. Beating the Nitro record, and then on top of that, we're just Hey, on top of that, let's just have a show that's going to have people buzzing. You know, in the meanwhile, and then at the same time, the other company, WWE, is out there doing media and doing interviews for their big event, for WrestleMania, and all they're doing is talking about AEW as well. AEW is having a great PR week. They're just having a great PR week. They even talked about Dynamite outlasting Nitro in the fucking Hollywood Reporter. So you've got all of that. And on top of that, great matches throughout. And on top of that, an all-timer match with two of the greatest talents on planet Earth right now. God damn. You wanted a week of wins. You wanted AEW to get some wins. You're getting them. You're getting them. You know, everyone moping about Mariah May may not be coming back. Who fucking cares? Who cares? Look at the status of everything that's going on in this company. Look, if Mariah May decides to not come back, it's no skin off my ass. Not after the Dynamite that I saw last night. It's going to be fine. This is what people don't seem to understand. I started having this discussion on stream earlier this week. It's like, what are the true, fumbles that Tony Khan or AEW managed to do in regards to people jumping to WWE? Like Cody, right? Unquestionably, that was a big game changer and a problem. CM Punk, okay. He was fired, and there's a whole... You can play a both sides argument here that him jumping was very, very bad for AEW, but also ended up probably being a very good thing, despite the hardships that followed. But, otherwise, Ricky Starks? No. Ethan Page? No. Jade Cargill, who was supposed to be? No. Brian Pillman Jr.? I'm sorry, Mariah May is going to be in that category. It's not going to be like this groundbreaking, destructive event to AEW, especially when I look at what the kind of show that I saw. I'm not going to sit around and mope because someone wants to leave. Au contraire, I'd be much more motivated to say, that's fine, Tony, cut him. Let him go. Let him go. Keep bringing Dynamites like we got on April 16, 2025, Tony. Let him go. It's going to be fine. You wanted a week of wins. You wanted wins. AEW scoring wins on a week that should belong to WWE. I shouldn't be here excited, getting goosebumps, thinking about a match that happened last night. My throat clasping because I'm raspy and I'm not pushing my voice through my diaphragm like I should. It's coming out of my throat. It should be from down here, but it's all up here because I'm excited. I shouldn't be like this. Not on WrestleMania week. It belongs to the other guys. A tremendous match. Look, every time, Will Ospreay. It's the same fucking analysis, but it's the truth. Will Ospreay is one of the greatest pro wrestlers to ever do it. We are watching greatness before our eyes. People still find ways to complain about this guy. I cannot believe it. We are in the midst of greatness. He is one of the greatest to ever do it, and it is happening right before our eyes. We are privileged. Konosuke Takeshita, in my book, is one of the top 5 wrestlers on planet Earth right now. This is a guy that is very close to leaving this company. I don't know if you realize how close. This is a guy, and it's become closer, if you ask me. Sorry to sidebar on this, but with the departure of Tetsuya Naito from New Japan, there's absolutely people backstage that are scrambling for plans. There is a huge spot that has just opened up in that company. And now they got to try and fill it. Konosuke Takeshita, who is currently under contract with New Japan as well, currently the never openweight champion, absolutely can be that guy. Absolutely can be a guy that you bring in, that you push to the moon, and that will be the guy you need in a top spot doing top guy things. And they know it. Takeshita probably knows it. He sees what's going on over there and he's like, fucking right, timing is perfect. I don't want to be doom and gloom here. There's really no, but it's not even doom and gloom. I don't want to be a merchant of bad omens. How about that? But Takeshita is not long for AEW. I can feel it in my bones. There is a need, a desire, a requirement in New Japan right now to have a guy like him. Now more than ever, that Tetsuya Naito, one of the most popular, if not the most popular star that company has had for years, decided after May 5th, I am out of here. Or May 4th. Couple of weeks and he's done. We're going to talk about this more on stream tonight if you're listening to this on Thursday. So I'm going to, we're not going to dive really all that deep into the Tetsuya Naito stuff here. But what I want to say is that this is a guy who can be a top guy. New Japan loses unquestionably their top guy, and I'd even argue their top draw. There's a huge gaping hole right now. Here's your kid. Here's the guy. Here's the guy you bring in, and he already wants to work there. It's been his dream to work for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Look, we're hearing a lot about wrestlers working for their dreams. There you go. Here's another guy. And he can be great there. He can be a top guy, and he can be a top guy for them for a long time. And he can come back to AEW too. And I'm sure everyone in AEW realizes that, when his contract is up, the negotiations are going to be, it's going to be a little hard. It's going to be a little difficult. I'm sure everyone sees that. Anyway, Takeshita, one of the top 5 guys in the world, against the greatest pro wrestler on planet Earth right now. What more do you want? I was expecting something really good. What we got was, in my opinion, a 4 3/4 star match. No, I'm not coward. I'm not going 5. But it's tremendous. Just absolutely phenomenal match. And then I'm like, okay, now we have to follow. Now the Death Riders and the Opps have to follow this. I'm like, this is really okay. Good luck to them, right? But this match was built. The main event was built so well, so incredibly well, to give another type of vibe. They decided to build this match around chaos and on bringing out your favorites so that your favorites could do good things, get you excited, and then have the baby faces win for a great finish. It was really well thought out, well played. Like, the match itself was good, was fine. Good action, everyone doing their roles perfectly. Powerhouse Hobbs joined the Opps in this trios match because Hook, in kayfabe, they said, was attacked earlier in the day by the Death Riders, just like they did with Jay White. But I guess this is related to him being sick last week, where he vomited in the ring, right? After the trios match they had last week on Dynamite, and I guess he's not feeling better. At the time I'm recording this, I looked up to see if there were any updates, and there weren't any updates. So don't know exactly what's going on there. But I thought Hobbs was a great addition. That was, a tremendous choice. And if anything, I kind of dig Hobbs with the Opps. It makes a lot of sense when you think about it. It makes a ton of sense. And this was good. This was a good trios match. It was well put together. Moxley, of course, was substituting for Pac. But the match it is what it is. Like I said, the important part of this match was the chaos that ensued at the end. Good, controlled chaos. Exciting, dynamic, made people feel happy, make people feel good. You could see everything that was going on, right? So it happens. This is where it all starts. Joe gets a hot tag, goes after YUTA, does a tremendous, spinning power slam, which is one of the greatest moves that Samoa Joe does because it's so convincingly gross and harsh and disgusting. Jon Moxley breaks up the pin, and then Moxley gets a little angry and introduces a chair, wants to use it, goes up onto the ramp. Cue Willow Nightingale to come steal the chair out of Mox's hands, to a huge reaction from the crowd. Everyone loves Willow, and she flips him off, and Moxley's pissed off at her, and so on and so forth. So that's really where it all starts. Joe takes him down with a huge lariat after a sequence where everyone is sort of pulling off power moves. Then the Young Bucks start sauntering down the ramp, and they seem to want to get involved. They go ringside, but they get blindsided by a guy in a hoodie in the audience. No, it's not, it's not, the fat Liger guy from Windy City Riot this weekend. No, it's Swerve Strickland, who was in a hoodie, and he takes out the Bucks to a huge reaction from the crowd. So the baby faces all coming together here to make sure that this match goes down, the right way. We get some more fighting. Castagnoli gets locked up into a hold by Shibata on the ramp. YUTA gets urinagi'd by Powerhouse Hobbs on commentary table. Marina Shafir hits Hobbs with a chair. Willow dives onto Shafir to take her out. So everyone, all of the Death Riders are either taken out or tied up with something. So that leads to Samoa Joe eventually getting the Kikina clutch, or whatever the fuck he calls it now, onto Moxley. Moxley taps. Jon Moxley, world champion Jon Moxley, taps. And the Opps get the win. Big ovation from the crowd. We're super into this. And I mean, it sounds overbooked, but it really was well executed. Because this really could have been overbooked and messy, but it wasn't. And everyone celebrates. The babyface locker room empties out to come celebrate. Will Ospreay has a bottle of champagne that he cracks open in the ring. And I'm like, these are the fucking trios titles. What are we doing? But I'm not complaining. And then Joe puts the title on Powerhouse's shoulders and then they all celebrate in the ring to show solidarity and whatnot. And the crowd is going bonkers. AEW returned to a formula that they had adopted just not all that long ago, very, very recently, that I pointed out, and that is to give their audience things that make them happy. Kenny Omega back, MJF being a heel, Adam Page becoming a babyface again, all this stuff, right? All this stuff it's making people happy, getting people into it. This rocked. It was a tremendous way to finish. Everyone's excited about it. No one has been this excited about the trios titles in months. And on top of it all, Samoa Joe choked out the champion. So I guess the rumors that Joe versus Mox at Double or Nothing happening are indeed happening. So there you go. I gave the match... What did I give that match? 3.5, right? 3 3/4 stars too. Look, the chaos of it at the end was tremendous. So well done. Like, it was tremendous. I don't know what you want from me. Do you want me to end the review? There we go. We'll end the review. It's done. Kaput. We're over. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a like. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and 5-star ratings on Spotify help out a great deal as well. I will be back, as I mentioned, later today on Thursday, if you're listening to this on Thursday, with a live stream on YouTube. Otherwise, I'll be back. I'll be back next Wednesday for the Mr. Warren Hayes show. There you go. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. And go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me. And I'll see you next time.